What's up? Welcome in, Hoge Jahns, back with you as we enter a new week, a big week, according to Matt Eberflus. And I don't know if this big week has gotten off to the best start. After a couple practices over the weekend, we are recording this on Monday morning, and the Bears will be back at it Tuesday at Hallis Hall, which will also be the day that Hard Knocks debuts on HBO Max. Johnsy, you excited for this week?
I am. A rare off day. Got a preseason game coming up. We have no idea who's going to be on this offensive line for Caleb Williams. We'll get to that a bit later. But yeah, I'm interested to see who the lead characters are on Hard Knocks come Tuesday night.
Yeah,
I mean, Caleb Williams is definitely going to be one.
Yeah, we think Caleb Williams. I think you're going to get some Cole Kmet in there. I think you're going to see a little bit of Tyler Scott's graduation. He graduated in Cincinnati on Friday after the Bears were in Canton on Thursday, and I think you're going to see a little bit of the Jonathan Owen stuff too, with Simone Biles and Pear. So, this first
Do you think Hard
episode
Knocks went to Paris?
my understanding is they followed him to the airport.
Okay.
And the Bears sent somebody to Paris. And the word on the street is Hard Knocks can access any camera in the world. I think they can tap into our cell phones if they want to take our practice footage. So I don't know how big of its storyline will be, but I'll be surprised if it's not in there. And then the crazy thing too is, like, I don't know if you feel this way, Johns, and this is not a complaint. It's just how I feel. I feel like we've been in camp for 4 weeks already. And these Hard Knocks cameras have been rolling the whole time. So, like, for one episode, I feel like they have a whole season's worth of footage already. So, obviously, some of the stuff that they filmed a couple weeks ago will get cut out and not even air. So, who knows where they'll make those tough decisions.
Let's not forget the Hall of Fame weekend, the Hall of Fame game. Steve Mongo, McMichael, Devin Hester, maybe a little Julius Peppers. I ran into them into the crew, one of their crews in Cleveland and Canton. And I'm like, oh, I forgot you guys were here because we're traveling. We're at a preseason game, and I forgot they go to every single thing included in the preseason, included during training camp. So definitely going to have, at least in the opening episode, you have to keep it relevant, to keep it immediate. You got to have some Hall of Fame coverage in there.
Yeah. Well, make sure you're following us on Twitter at Adam Hoge, at Adam Johns. You can read all Johnsy's work in The Athletic, theathletic.com/Hogan Johns. You can also read Kevin Fishbane there. Dan Pompey was at Mongo's house on Saturday. So you can read his story from there as well, which is always great stuff. And on my end of things, my CHGO Bears Things newsletter out pretty much every morning in training camp. Got another one out this morning on the offensive line situation, which we will jump into here as well on this show. And I should tease that CHGO, we will be live after every Hard Knocks episode throughout the next 5 weeks. So as soon as that, I think the episode airs at 8 p.m. on Tuesday night, and we will be live on the CHGO YouTube channel right after that. So if you want to get, sort of like a post-game show to a TV show, that's going to be the game plan. And Corey Wooten's going to be a part of all those too. So I'm actually looking forward to that.
I feel really excited like that's part of a trend that used to happen with the most popular TV shows, like Talking Dead. Ever hear of that? It was like the Walking Dead
podcast. Yeah.
Well, it was a TV show after the Walking Dead episodes would premiere. And I feel like other shows have done those as well. So, isn't that like the Brags After Dark hour, something like that?
Yeah. So it's CHGO. It's Bears After Dark. That's Braggs' show. And he usually does it with Wooten every week. But they're gonna have they want me on to help break down Hard Knocks, and then I think Carm and Nicholas Moriano are gonna kind of rotate weeks too. So it'll be a four-person show. I'm honestly looking forward to it because I'm a Hard Knocks fan. I like Hard Knocks. I get angry when the seasons kind of suck because it does happen sometimes. I think they've been on a good run lately. The Lions a couple years ago was outstanding. The Jets last year was fine. It wasn't bad. It turned into an Aaron Rodgers infomercial, and then he got hurt right away. and then the Dolphins in-season one was outstanding last year, and then this Giants one was outstanding in the offseason. They've been on a nice run here, and I think, everybody, this would be a huge letdown if this Bears season ended up not being great. But I think they have enough storylines, Caleb Williams to kind of carry this thing too. And before we get into some listener questions, because I know you asked for some, Johns, I want to talk a little bit about we'll make some predictions here, but more so, how about this one? This Caleb Williams, do we see his character almost like being clarified better to the national audience, or does he continue to be somewhat polarizing? Because what our experience has been here since he's become a Bear, and even a few weeks before he became a Bear, is that all these sort of blown up storylines from the college football season last year, almost none of them have been proven to be true. And that, in fact, some of his teammates, including like a Cole Kmet, has come out and been like, yeah, I had my doubts too, based on what I was seeing on social media last year, but spent 2 hours with the guy and realized that that's not at all the case at what he is. And so far, everybody loves him. So do you think that comes across on Hard Knocks too? Or because Caleb just sort of being who he is, even, while he was in college, does that come off in Hard Knocks, where you're still going to have people on social media being like, oh, look at this guy, it's all about him, even though that doesn't appear to be what the case actually is in real life?
I think all quarterbacks are polarizing in their own individual ways. Every single quarterback is polarizing. Love them, hate them for whatever reasons you want. And some are more, some have bigger personalities than others. Some are like Aaron Rodgers, who are just out there. Some are like Russell Wilson, who could be out there. They're all polarizing in their own individual ways. But Caleb has not been polarizing at all throughout training camp, at least from what we're covering, from what we're hearing. And it's almost like, I'm glad you brought that up about what Cole Kmet said, because there's been a number of players who have made similar comments about the media, about how he's portrayed and how he's just different than what was portrayed. Jalen Johnson, I think, said it. Tyson Bagent has said it. A number of other players have referenced the same, like Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, have mentioned the same, like, what we heard is different than what we're experiencing. So I think what you're going to get, just based on what I'm, from my spying of the Hard Knocks cameras, you're going to get a lot of interpersonal interactions, especially on the football field. There's been a lot of Caleb Williams talking. Here's an example. I'm taking a knee next to Cole Kmet, and here's the audio guy sneaking in there with his boom mic, whatever you want to call it, trying to get their conversation more clearly. So I think you're going to get a lot of personal interactions amongst teammates with Caleb Williams. Maybe not in this episode, but throughout the entire six shows, right? The entire series this year.
My prediction is that Caleb Williams wins Hard Knocks. I think he'll come off strong, and I think we will see some reaction kind of on social media, like, oh, maybe he wasn't that way. What was the one that, wasn't there another controversy the other day on Twitter, was it Amani Toomer?
Amani Toomer. Blast from the past there.
I know, right? I swear there was let me Google this real quick.
The Giants wide receiver? Oh, here, yeah. Amani Toomer rips Caleb Williams in bizarre episode.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
That's the headline I just read.
Okay, here's
Okay.
His NFL leadership skills. Oh, that's what it was. He took exception to what we learned last week, that Caleb told his teammates to clean up the locker room. His whole thing was basically here's the exact quote. He's Russell Wilson 2.0. This is not going to go over well. Some rookie's going to come in who hasn't played one snap, talking, wearing the fingernail polish. Now he's going to come in here and tell me who has been here through the struggle that I need to clean up?
Well, you should clean up.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Regardless of who you are or what setting you're in, if you get mad at somebody who's asking you to clean up some trash and you get mad about that, then I think you're just the asshole in that situation.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, what are we doing here? But I think that, I think that goes to show that there are still some uninformed people in this whole thing that still need to be informed. So I guess that's sort of the genesis of my question here with Hard Knocks. Does Caleb Williams Hard Knocks kind of inform some of these people that are still just like trying to come up with reasons to hate on this kid?
Well, I like the way you put it. Does Caleb Williams win Hard Knocks? Let me double down on that. Does Matt Eberflus win Hard Knocks?
I have a sort of follow-up to that. How much is Matt Eberflus even featured on Hard Knocks?
Oh, he will be. But like to our point about like at least this opening episode, you got the Olympics and Jonathan Owens. You get the Hall of Fame ceremony. You have to introduce everybody to Caleb Williams. You can get some Flus in there. What was the other one? Cole Kmet, because they went to the Cubs game with them. So you get different bits and pieces of different players. But
so look, as a head coach, Flus is going to be on the show, obviously. However, not all of these years as the head coach get like feats. Like Dan Campbell 2 years ago was Hard Knocks. Like it was the Dan Campbell show for the most part, and it was great. It was phenomenal. I don't think we're going to get that with Flus. I think it's way more likely this becomes like the Caleb Williams show than the Flus show. So I'm just, I don't know. I think that's my biggest question that I don't have a ton of conviction on right now is how Flus fares. And I'll give you even on a smaller scale. Like I had my binoculars on Flus yesterday a lot in practice because I think we'll agree like it was not a smooth practice. The offensive execution was sloppy. And I kept watching Flus, like kind of waiting for him to get pissed off. And I didn't really see it. And so like a practice like yesterday's, and considering they do practice Tuesday, but I don't know how much of Tuesday's practice is going to make Tuesday's edit, but Sunday's practice, there might be some of that in there. I'm curious, like how he comes off in those moments, or like when he kicked Montez Sweat out of that drill, because he was hitting Caleb. Does that make Hard Knocks? Stuff like that.
I think he's going to come across really well. Maybe not extremely well, but I think he's going to be well received just in terms of his coaching. Now, Dan Campbell had his Dan Campbell isms, and Flus has his, but I don't think it's going to be the same just in terms of he's not as verbose as Dan Campbell. We'll put it that way. But I think he's going to come off extremely well received. I said extremely, maybe not extremely, but well received.
All right, my last one on Hard Knocks before we get into some listener questions. How much insight do you think we get, or how much perhaps concern that maybe we've seen with the offensive line or overall offensive execution at times, do you think will get confirmed at all by some of the behind the scenes stuff? Like, and because remember, like sometimes these can become infomercials, but you still usually get your random wide receiver coach chewing out the wide receiver room or something like that. Or, I don't know, other examples like that. Do you think anything pops up in this episode that kind of adds to maybe some of the concern of what we've been seeing with our own eyes, if that makes sense?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Bears they have a say in some of this, right?
I think they get a final. Yeah, I think it's somewhat negotiable, but I do think that they do a final say if there's something completely bonkers that they don't want in there.
I just don't feel like the Bears are going to be as revealing as the Giants have been in their shows, at least not initially. Maybe yes, when decisions have to be made, but like this is all kind of recent, like a matter of 3 or 4 days, where we're seeing the offensive line just kind of like you're down the second teamers and third teamers playing with Caleb Williams right now, which is not good. But this is a more recent development, so maybe the Bears would like to talk about it later, if that makes sense to you. Maybe they'll ask hey, well, don't worry, we have more personnel meetings coming next week. Get those, because right now it's too early to say.
Yeah, I think there'll be something that comes out of this that's somewhat
like
controversial. But yeah, or at least something that everybody's talking about Wednesday morning. But I can't pinpoint.
I feel like they're going to give you some behind the scenes stuff on like the draft evaluation of Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze. Like you'll get something out of that.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure you're going to get anything about them being scared about their offensive line. Not until later.
All right, fair enough. Let's get to some of these questions. I believe we have 6 of them.
Let's talk about this offensive line.
Yeah.
Lots of questions about the offensive line last night when I asked for questions. So I'm gonna read 2 real quick. This is from Chris.
Can I stop you real quick? You went with a gift from The Notebook.
Yeah.
When you asked for questions. Well, I love that movie. And if you don't love that movie, you're lying to yourself. So yeah, I did like it. But interesting choice by you.
Who doesn't enjoy a good love story?
Kent, please pull that.
All right, let me read these 2 questions quickly because there's a lot of questions about the O-line. This is from Chris. How concerned should we be with the O-line still? Still sounds awfully shaky. And this is from Matt. What's your prescription to fix the offensive line carousel and its impact on Caleb's development?
Well, that's the last part that those last few words of that second question is what I'm more concerned about than anything else. Because there were times this offseason where, and rightfully so, we were all praising what Ryan Poles was doing. He's creating this great, he's getting all these weapons for Caleb Williams. They're doing this the right way. And then every once in a while, we'd be like, have they done enough on the old line, though? Because to me, the most uneasy thing was, even though they brought in 2 new centers, neither one of them's terribly experienced at the position at a high level. And the guard situations, both of them come into this season with availability concerns. And now here we are on an off day on August 5th. It looks like Nate Davis is ramping back up and should probably be out there this week, but he's missed a lot of time, not surprisingly. And now Tevin Jenkins, we don't even really know what happened yesterday, but he leaves after walkthroughs and doesn't come back. And it just, you realize how fragile they are at those interior positions to all of a sudden be looking at an offensive line in the first week of August that includes Bill Murray and Jerome Carvin.
I've never heard of this. This sounds so rude sometimes, but there's always like 1 or 2 players we're like, who's that again?
Yeah.
We all know Bill Murray. He's got the most famous name on the team,
But I'll ask you this, did you even know Bill Murray was around last season? Like, other than like when he first got there and you're like, oh, the Bears signed somebody named Bill Murray.
Well, yes, I did, actually. I'll say Bill Murray. But the other guy you just said, no.
Yeah, and so for all of these good things that you've done for Caleb Williams, it just, I don't blame fans right now that are like, well, what about the offensive line? Because that's the part that you, A, obviously don't want Caleb to get hurt because they can't block, or B, go down the same road they've gone down all these times with rookie quarterbacks who develop bad habits because they're constantly under pressure.
I think, well, we'll see if Nate Davis is back on Tuesday. We'll see what happened to the Tevin Jenkins because, he's playing for a lot this year. Has every motivation to be on the field. They want to revisit with him after the bye week about a contract extension. He wants to be here. And with him, durability and his availability is everything. He's got to prove it to this regime. He was not drafted by Ryan Poles. Nate Davis, well, he didn't play a full season last year. I think this is just, it is what it is. I'm interested to see what the offensive line depth looks like when Karan Amagaji returns, the draft pick. Now, we knew that would be a slow ramp up following his surgery last season, and they were going to be slow with this. They're going to be methodical with his return, but I think the depth immediately improves when he's back on the field. And then, like Matt Pryor, you talk about Ryan Bates and Coleman Shelton, but Matt Pryor has a lot of experience as well. I know I'm trying to be more positive than the situation maybe lends to it, but I'm trying to be patient with it because this is really, this is when training camp really just ramping up. But the Bears have had the extra days because of the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah.
They still have a month to go to get ready. That's what I'm trying to say. There's still a month before the first real game. More than a month before the first real game.
I can buy a little bit of faith in Matt Pryor. He's been around. I think he's in his 7th season. He can play inside and outside. Those are the types of guys you like as backups. I'm going to push back a little bit on you on Karan Amagaji because I just think he's a giant unknown. I have no idea how good he is. And I don't like the fact that if we go back to the spring when they drafted him, they sure as hell hinted like they expected him to be ready for training camp. And then that kind of quickly changed. And now we're a couple weeks in and he's still not out there. And he's making this jump from the Ivy League too. Let's not forget that. He's making a pretty significant jump here to the NFL. So if he misses a lot of training camp, I just don't know how realistic it is to be like, oh, he's going to get ramped up in a few weeks and be ready to actually be active on game day come the regular season.
Well, to that point, I will say it was Ryan Poles himself who tried to set the level of expectation for Karan as a potential backup, knowing how long this process could take. I think when you have a draft pick, and maybe Braxton Jones' story changed this for us, you want to see the draft pick play almost immediately, but it was Poles himself who said this could take a year or two for things to work for Karan. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And perhaps, I don't know if it's concerning or not, but the one guy I don't even think we've mentioned his name, but Darnell Wright being out right now too is I don't know. It's with a lot of these injuries. I don't go back to the defensive secondary. I'm not necessarily worried about any of them, but it's the same thing that happened last year, where it's just all of a sudden they start to add up in August, and we're looking at these practices where my DNP list is 8, 9, 10 players deep.
I'd like to see. I don't know if it's just Montez Sweat having an outstanding camp, but I'd like to see Darnell Wright have a better camp when he returns.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. Look, you're going up against one of the best pass rushers in the league, but
you're supposed to develop into one of the best pass protectors in the league.
Yeah.
I like it to be more 50-50 than 70-30. That's how it feels sometimes, especially when they go team.
It would be nice if. Would you agree right now that the spot where you have the least amount of questions, or perhaps the only consistent, constant guy, has been Braxton Jones at left tackle so far?
And he was in and out at first for a bit.
Yeah, he was. So really, none of the 5 spots you have a for sure thing. And I say that as one of Tevin Jenkins' biggest fans. I think Tevin Jenkins is an outstanding guard when he's there. But the bottom line is he has to prove that he's available.
And I think this is where it frustrates the Bears. Yes, you have 34 days until your opener. 34. It's a lot of time. But you would also like Caleb Williams to play a considerable amount of snaps in Buffalo. But how comfortable are you with him behind backups? Eberflus has mentioned this multiple times about how his playing time is also connected to those playing with him. The skills guys look good, but let's protect him first. We've been down this road many times. So just in terms of like immediate frustrations, I think that's where it is for the Bears. They want to protect them. They want to play Caleb Williams in this game, and they're down the backups.
As of Monday morning, as we record this right now, I think Caleb's snaps are going to be extremely limited in Buffalo, unless Tuesday, Wednesday will be big days. Does Nate Davis come back to the point that he can actually play Saturday? Whatever was going on with Tevin Sunday, does he come back? What's going on with Darnell Wright? Because if all three of those get answered, then I think you do play Caleb quite a bit in Buffalo. But based on how this has been trending, that seems like a lot of ifs to go the right way over the next few days.
You're going to get 25 snaps and 20 run calls. But there's value in that. There is. But he's here to pass the ball, too. This is from Dylan. Dylan Day. Are we going to sign Yannick? If not, has Austin Booker showed enough in training camp? Thanks, guys. Love the show.
My early impressions are that they like what they have enough here, that they don't feel in too much of a rush right now to go sign a veteran that you're going to have to play and take away reps from an Austin Booker. I'd like to watch his game reps a little bit closer. I watched him on the TV copy. I thought it was some good, and then some where like that guy's got to put on some muscle. He's lanky. He's got a lot of good things going for him, but when he's standing out there like next to a DeMarcus Walker, you're like, okay, he might need a year here to really bulk up. So I'm skeptical that Austin Booker, can be like your full-time D end opposite of Montez Sweat as a rookie.
But to your point, I want to see more from Austin Booker right now.
Yeah.
Throughout training camp. If you feel desperate, you could go find a street free agent. But it's every time we have this conversation, like you have to remind yourselves why these players are still available. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's injury. Sometimes it's their age. They're not the same players you think they were a couple years ago. They're just not. If they were, they'd be on a team by now. So we'll see. I just want to see more from Austin Booker. I think DeMarcus Walker has had a pretty good camp. Dominique Robinson actually showed up a little bit this weekend. But again, he was going against backups in that Bears offensive line. So I'm willing to be patient with this because there's 34 days to week one.
Look, and regardless, Booker's getting reps with the ones at times. That's not nothing. That shows you. I mean, this isn't like a first round pick. This is a 5th round pick. We know they like him, but that's still significant that it's at least trending in the right direction. So,
even when he played against the Texans, I kind of liked their plan for him. Third down passing situations. He came in. Guys moved around. He was out there to rush the passer in those certain situations. And he's better. He's better than Dominique Robinson at that right now, I think.
Yeah. I think what would be tempting with Yannick, if you did want to re-sign him, is that I really thought he was starting to look really good once Montez Sweat got here. Like there was a 3-week window in there, maybe a 4-week window, where it's like, oh, this is something the Bears have here. And then he got hurt. But then again, the Bears know the medicals on that, and they know how healthy he probably is or will be this season. And that's the one thing that we don't know, or the fans don't know right now. I find it very interesting that he went on like a 2-day visit to Carolina and didn't sign. Whether that was his choice or their choice, maybe it's just a check-in. I don't know, but usually when you see those types of visit, you see the guy leave with a contract.
Yeah. Yeah, especially come this time of year.
Yeah.
All right, from Jason. What should Tory Taylor's new nickname be? He had a fun interaction with Pat Finley yesterday when Pat Finley suggested crocodile punter.
Yeah, it's not going to be the crocodile punter. I think
He did not like that.
Tory shut that one down really quick.
He punted Pat.
He punted Pat across the media room with that one. And nobody enjoyed it more than Brad Biggs. That's what I enjoyed was Biggsy's reaction to Pat getting punted. Yeah, and then Pat followed up later. Do you have experience with snakes? What's he gonna ask next about kangaroos? Like, come on, man. Give the guy a break.
Every Australian joke that Pat has in his arsenal is just gonna come out.
Tory should just respond with like whatever San Diego stereotypes there are, and just
Ron Burgundy references.
Yeah, I don't really know what the San Diego stereotypes would be, but maybe just make fun of the Padres or how they lost their football team. That would be a good comeback on Pat. It would be mean, but it would be pretty good. I don't know what the nickname is going to be. I found it interesting that that whole conversation started with, has Flus given you a nickname? Because Flus usually has a nickname for pretty much everyone, and Tory said that there is no Flus nickname yet.
I think it's gonna be something simple like this is gonna be the Flus, the Flus nickname. It's gonna be something simple like Double T.
Double T.
Seriously.
Double T.
Double
okay.
T.
That's weak. I think we can do better than that. Or his name could just be Tory Taylor. Does everybody need a nickname? I don't know.
Flus, maybe.
Will the nicknames get featured on Hard Knocks?
Yes.
Will, they do bloopers at the end. Does something like Tory punting Pat end up on the bloopers?
Hope so.
Oh, God, I would love that.
Hope so.
That would be fantastic.
Hope so. We're obviously having fun with this question, but Tory Taylor, what was the stat that Richard Hightower had? Like something ridiculous about him landing X amount of punts inside the 5 at practice the other day.
I think he said that they kick like 40 balls.
40 sounds right.
They were all plus 50, which means, the side of the field where you're past the 50-yard line, you have to basically pin it in. And the goal is to not have a touchback, and he had 0 touchbacks.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. Absolutely.
That's insane, because usually you'd at least have one bounce the wrong way and roll into the end zone.
Yeah.
Even if it's a good ball. It is a football, and it does not bounce consistently the same way. If that's true, and I don't know why it wouldn't be for Hightower to bring it up, that's I really do think this kid's going to be really good.
A weapon.
I love his mentality. Carm was making fun of his mentality yesterday on our show. I love that mentality.
Yes. How about there it is? The weapon.
The weapon. Just call him the weapon.
Hoge Jahns has figured it out.
All
right. Yeah, more?
I was just going to say, he said his mentality is that when he comes out there, he wants to own the field. Own the field. And like, you have 2 ways to look at that. You could be like Mark Carman and be like, that's ridiculous for a punter to think he can own the field. Or you could be like, this guy's getting paid a lot of money to do that job, to get the Bears good field position. And regardless of what you think about that, it's probably good if he thinks that that's the best way to approach it, that I can own the field here. And what I do love about what he said, what Tory Taylor said was, I have the ball in my hands on that play. And on every play, whoever has the ball in their hands needs to be the weapon. And in that case, the weapon has to kick it and get the ball in the air in the right spot so that the Bears can have good field position. So you can make fun of the punter, whatever you want to do, but like I love it. But like that's a great mentality to have if you're a punter.
I like what the weapon said about. We're gonna make it stick. When the weapon explained how, yes, he gets nervous taking the field, but he's just got to focus for like 5 to 10 seconds. 5 to 10 seconds. And like when he was saying that, I'm thinking to myself, we've talked to Tory Taylor multiple times now at the podium. That never happened with Trenton Gill. That never happened with Pat O'Donnell. So this just feels different already that we're talking about a punter this much, because it is different when we see his punts. They are different. He is a weapon for the Chicago Bears. It's going to stick at him.
I love it. We might have to get an obvious shirt going on that one. HogeJahns.com for all your merch. And I think you're going to see a little bit of the weapon on Hard Knocks.
Yeah. Now,
because I've happened to notice that sometimes there's cameras and microphones following the specialists around. Specifically, there was a practice where fans probably don't even know this, but sometimes they actually bring an actual tape measure out to measure the distance between on field goals, like where the ball's being placed and where Cairo Santos is starting, because they want that to be a consistent distance. Like literally, that's how precise they are at this level for their kicks. And I saw them filming that, so I think you might end up seeing that at some point.
Pat would call him the weapon from down under. Next question. This is from Yuri. Next question. With the Caleb Williams rookie contract on the roster, I think it's almost a certainty Poles trades for an elite defensive line player. Lawrence or Crosby is my hope this season. Time to go all in is now. Why haven't I heard more Chicago media talking about this possibility? I think it's very likely. I like this scenario. I think we've talked about this scenario. So sorry, Yuri. This will have to go back to maybe a preseason episode of Hoge Jahns during the offseason. But the Bears have 2 second-round picks. And I could see them holding off on signing some old veteran free agent during the offseason in favor of targeting a younger player potentially worth a second contract that is on some reeling team, some team that's self-destructing, a player who wants out of that certain situation, like a Montez Sweat. And the Bears using one of their second-round picks to acquire one of those players. And defense does stand out to me.
Well, first of all, they already did this. So I think that's got to be taken into consideration. They literally did this last year. They traded for Montez Sweat and gave him a massive contract. So you do have to be a little bit careful about overindulging. And the ideal scenario is that you develop one of your own kids here. Like if Austin Booker becomes, the next Max Crosby, who was overlooked in the draft and exploded onto the scene and has been nothing but a huge hit for the Raiders, that's the perfect scenario. Now, is that going to happen between now and the trade deadline? Probably not. It didn't happen that fast for Max Crosby, as fast as his success was. Certainly I love that idea because I love Max Crosby. I love his mentality. I love the way he plays, hair on fire every single snap. I think he would fit Matt Eberflus's defense and the hits principle very, very well. But, that brings back, memories to when last time the Bears traded for a pass rusher from the Raiders. And it didn't exactly work out. But as we've talked about on this show, the day that trade was made, it was really all about the quarterback working. And so it would again be that same situation. Like, yeah, if you're going to get another pass rusher, pay that pass rusher and put more money towards that. Like, I get it. I get the logic. But same thing, you better be hitting on this quarterback now because you're going to have to maximize these 4 years on this rookie contract.
All right. Keeping the quarterback conversation going. I knew we were going to get this question. This is from Brett. Reports say that Justin Fields is looking good in Steelers training camp, which is good for him. But does this show the Bears made a mistake, or is this how he has always played in training camp?
Well, I don't think it's a mistake. I think it's some of this is a little bit predictable. I mean, we all I feel like, especially on this show too. I mean, we're very clear. Like he has a chance to be. I think he has a chance to become the starter in Pittsburgh, and I think he has a chance to have some success there. I also think that if you think Justin Fields is going to, all of a sudden become a top 10 quarterback in Pittsburgh, especially when we talk about quarterback play, like passing the ball, they better not be putting those types of expectations on him in Steelers land, because that's probably not what you're going to get. But if you're going to get a very exciting, explosive playmaker and you find the right way to use them, and that's a good coaching staff there, it sets him up to potentially have success. But that doesn't mean the Bears made a mistake in moving on. Like, you got to be able to separate the two situations, and understand that they were going to have to either pay Justin or just leave him like as a lame duck quarterback in year 4, all while passing on a talent like Caleb Williams in the draft. That was not a realistic option.
The Bears had a chance to reset their books at quarterback. Ryan Poles and Eberflus had a chance to draft their own quarterback. They made the right move just in terms of getting the 3 most important football people in your building on the same page: your GM, your coach, and your quarterback. How many times have we talked about that? It just had to happen. And to your point, you didn't want to bring him in as a retain Justin Fields as in his last year. Do you give him that extension that you don't really want to give him? So I think you and I have been consistent that we always thought that Justin Fields has had starter potential. Yes, to your question, there were glimpses of this in camp at times. I still go back to the joint practices against the Dolphins when I thought everything should have changed for the Chicago Bears. It's under Matt Nagy. Yeah. He was one of the best players on the field in those joint practices, but he was still the second or third string quarterback for the Chicago Bears at that time. I think last year the connection with DJ Moore worked. Not a lot of other things worked. Maybe Luke Getsy wasn't the best play caller. He found a job. Justin Fields' trade market wasn't that strong. So there's a lot of layers to this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Justin Fields wins that job. Right now, I don't feel like it's a real competition because Russell Wilson isn't practicing. And I think it was Mike Tomlin who said himself that Russell was like the leader in there a long time ago. So we'll see what happens.
Look, I think that we laughed at the trade market when that trade was made. We believe he's. I'll speak for myself. I believe he's a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I am still shocked that the trade market was what it was. And I think it's very cool that the Bears did right by Justin to get him to the place where he wanted to be. And clearly, based on Justin's comments, he appreciated it too. And so my advice to fans is to enjoy this ride, because I think there's a very likely scenario that plays out here that fans are going to realize exactly why they did what they did to bring Caleb in here. And if you are a Justin Fields fan, and I don't know why any fan wouldn't want the best for him, because he was nothing but a professional in Chicago while he was here, you can simultaneously enjoy whatever's happening with him in Pittsburgh at the same time. If he gets on the field and plays well, great. That would be my advice on how to handle it. Now, I did talk to somebody at a party the other night who she's an Ohio State fan, and she is swearing off the Chicago Bears for letting them. So those people still are out there. She says she's not a Bears fan anymore. And I responded, we'll see about that when Caleb throws 3 touchdowns against the Titans.
Yeah, well, and let's see what happens in the regular season. Yeah. I remember Jay Cutler having outstanding training camps and it not really translating.
Well, right, because the issue for Justin is like, let me see it when there's a live pass rush, right? And confusing defenses in front of him and pre-snap things he's got to figure out. I mean, yeah. Good question, though. I hope we don't have to answer it every week, but I don't think it's going to go away, and it shouldn't, because the Bears do have a draft pick that rides on his playing time. So it is something we're going to have to check in on from time to time throughout the season.
An additional 6 that could turn into a 5th, is that right? Or 5th to 4th?
4th.
5th to 4th.
Yeah. If he plays 51% of the snaps, it goes to a 4th-round pick. So that's significant.
I'm going to search. What's going on with Russell Wilson? Still hurt?
I don't know. I haven't been paying that close attention. It just seems like everything I see on Twitter, from Mark Caboli or whatever, like is Justin's playing. I'm like, okay. We'll see. Was that all the questions?
That's it. Well, there's more. There's a lot of offensive line questions.
Yeah.
At least a dozen of them.
Let the next few days play out, I would say. But if all of a sudden there's still attrition later in this week and they opt to not play the Caleb and Buffalo next week's that joint practice against the Bengals, are they even going to play after that? Now all of a sudden we're 3 games into the preseason. It's going to be fascinating how this plays out the next 2 weeks.
If this seriously impacts like their plan or what they want to do with Caleb Williams in this game, then it's a problem.
Yeah.
Then you have a problem.
Yeah, unfortunately, it kind of seemed like a predictable problem. So maybe they should be going out and trading for offensive linemen, not defensive linemen.
Hey, why not?
All right. Fun show. Hope everybody enjoys Hard Knocks. We will be back later on in the week. We'll have to figure some things out this weekend. I'm actually missing this Buffalo game because I have a family wedding on Saturday.
I think the Fish Man will be filling in for you.
There we go. People love the Fish Man, as they should. I like that photo of the 3 of us in the stands yesterday working. You and I locked in, and Kevin looked like, who's this guy taking a photo of me?
I saw the guy. I waved at him. Yeah. Come say hi.
Yeah, don't be a stranger. Well, in that particular case, though, we're blocked off in our bleacher where fans can't come in.
That's true.
So,
our special.
Yeah, no, we love seeing you guys out there at camp, and if you're out there the next few days, please say hi. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter. Read us. Johnsy's in the Athletic. You can get my Bears Things newsletter if you're a CHGO diehard. Got some big things planned for you this week, including Tyson Bagent on today's episode of CHGO. And, of course, we'll be rolling it back with our Hard Knocks post-game shows as well on Bears After Dark on Tuesday. So a lot of great content for you, and we'll be back later this week as well on Hoge Jahns. Hope everybody enjoys the week, and we'll see if Caleb actually plays in Buffalo.
See ya.